Welcome back to In the House with Beth and Ryan. I'm Beth and this is Ryan.
Today we're going to talk about a number of things. Are you ready?
We're going to talk about November results, how this November is compared to prior Novembers. It's a bit of an anomaly. We're going to talk about predictions again a little bit for how we see things transitioning through the rest of December and into the new year.
We're going to talk about some news from the federal government, and we're going to talk about some things that we anticipate might be coming early in the year or into the spring in Guelph as a result of some of these policy changes and all the rest of the stuff that's going on. So first, November.
Yeah, November, so the numbers are in, and this November was actually busier than what we typically see in November. We like to measure the market in terms of number of sales per day. What's the exact number for November?
5.25.
5.25. Typically, November, December is quite slow, really from July all the way through till Christmas. We see the market fairly slow, with the exception of sometimes September has a little bit of a blip where there's kind of a burst of activity at the end of the summer, which interestingly this year we didn't see that.
Right.
September remained fairly slow, and even October, and it was November that was the outlier where things really seemed to pick up.
Right. As Beth said, 5.25 was the average in November. The average for the full year, so all of the months from January to October, is just 5.
Yeah.
So to outsell the average for the year is pretty incredible in November. And it just goes to show that there are buyers out there, and the Canadian government is doing their fair share to try to encourage buyers to come out. There were a couple of announcements. One of them was the interest rate announcement.
Yep.
At a reduction of 0.5 basis points.
Yep.
And the other one was some new rules that came into effect December 15th on minimum down payments and some first-time buyer incentives. So the government is really working hard to try to get activity into the market. And we saw it in November. We're probably going to see it again in January. Yeah, we anticipate there are a couple of hot spots, and we'll get into that maybe in this video, maybe in a different one, about where those are and maybe why they are. But we anticipate January is going to be a hotter month in terms of activity, which doesn't necessarily mean prices are going to go up.
No.
It just means that there's going to be more activity in the market, more people looking to buy, more people probably looking to sell, and just higher than average volumes.
And even now in December, I would say like we're still seeing things remain relatively active. Usually by this time, as we're approaching Christmas, things have really kind of quieted down. And while they're quieter than they were in November, I would say that there's still a fair number of transactions that are happening. Driven by, again, like a couple specific segments of the market, I would say. Yeah,
and then when we get into looking at what could be the drivers of some of this volume, the Canadian government today, Chrystia Freeland has resigned. And it doesn't look like the Liberal government is that organized today to talk about some of these numbers. And so as a result, the Canadian economy, we're kind of stretched. The reason these interest rates are coming down is because employment, especially in places like Ontario, approaching 8%, which is higher than the norm of the 4 to 5 range we expect. So some challenges there, which might put a bit of a lid on, what some people are expecting to be a market where, prices soar again and we get into bidding wars. And we don't think we're going to see that again into the new year. So
at least not until inventory levels really start to drop significantly, because we still have really high levels of inventory in Guelph. And I mean, maybe we'll talk about this too, but it does depend a little bit also on what segment you're looking at.
We can talk about that now. So one of the things, and we'll make a video on this separately, but one of the things that we think is going to happen is that because unemployment is rising and because a lot of people are coming up for renewal in the next 2 years, we anticipate that people in the GTA who have always been a segment of Guelph's market, 25 to 30% every month come from the GTA into Guelph. We anticipate that those people are probably going to start doing the same thing again, selling a detached home somewhere in the GTA, and want to buy.
They want a down price.
They want a down price.
Maintain their size of home.
Yeah, that's right. So they go from $1.5 million in Toronto to $1,900,000 to $1 million in Guelph. Pocket money along the way. Get a lower mortgage. or maintain their mortgage because it's lesser money and have to put less money down. And the challenge that you're going to find when you move to Guelph is that there aren't that many of them.
Right. So one of the things that has been happening in just recent years, really, even just recently, is that there's much more focus on attached type housing, stacked townhouses in particular. We're not seeing as many detached houses being built in Guelph. And so if we do see, like Ryan was saying, a relatively large influx or just an increase in the influx of people coming from the GTA, and if those people are specifically wanting a detached home, that could really drive that market specifically in terms of price.
And it could also have a big impact on the new builds, could have a big impact on existing inventory or even new inventory of stacked townhomes too. If there's a glut of them on the market and there aren't as many buyers, the prices are going to suffer for those. So we'll make a video separately on that, but there are some considerations in the style of home that could play a big role in next year's sales. And then lastly, the other segment that we're seeing right now that is starting to become competitive is the student market.
And that seems to be, at this time of year specifically, at least from our perspective, what we've been noticing in the numbers is really kind of what's driving the market at this point in terms of keeping it to still busy at this time of year.
And it's going to continue probably into January and February, where certain geographic areas, so probably a half-kilometer radius around Stone Road Mall, is really competitive because parents have crunched the numbers and realized that maybe financially they're better off to buy something and have their child and some friends live in it than to have their kid go out into the market and try to find a house to rent.
And not just financially, but also there is a real shortage of student housing in Guelph, in particular because the university has really accepted a lot of first-year students this year. So those students are now all heading out to try and find a place to rent for next year. And this is kind of the time of year when students are signing their leases.
Yeah, it is.
It definitely goes into the new year, but a lot of people are trying to secure that housing in the fall. And early winter. So people, like Ryan said, parents are looking at these houses as an opportunity to not only potentially have an investment for themselves and save some money, but also to secure housing for their student and make sure that they have a place to live.
So it's getting competitive. We know of one last week that had 8 offers, which having multiple offers now is pretty rare even. But to have 8 offers on a house is very unusual. So that segment of the market, we'll make a separate video on that as well, but that segment of the market is really on fire these days. And there are some strategies that you can take to try to make your odds better, to make your situation better. But it is important that you understand that buying a rental property means you're becoming a landlord, and there's a lot of different things that you need to know as you become a new landlord if you haven't owned a property before, which in the case of many parents, they haven't. So if you have any questions on that, give us a call or an email, but look out for a video on that. Anything else you want to say?
I don't know. I guess this is our last video of this year. And next one will be 2025.
It's our last Guelph Today. It's our last Guelph Today video.
True. Yes.
We may have another one related to housing in Guelph and student rentals, but it's our last video, as Beth said, for Guelph Today this year.
So we are wishing everybody happy holidays. Hopefully you can find some downtime and relax and enjoy your family and friends.
And as always, if you need us, we're here. We're closed on Christmas. We're closed on New Year's Day, but we're open the other days. Always feel free to give us a call or check us out online at bethandryan.ca.
We're closed on Christmas.